The attack came without warning. Titan colony's defense systems barely registered the shimmering distortion before reality itself seemed to tear open, disgorging vessels that defied human understanding. They moved like liquid mercury, their surfaces rippling with patterns of light that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Admiral Elena Santos watched the feed from Earth Command with growing horror as humanity's most advanced outpost in the solar system crumbled in minutes. The Titan colony, home to 50,000 souls, had been humanity's pride, a testament to our species' determination to spread beyond Earth. Now it was becoming our first battlefield. Multiple contacts emerging from the anomaly, Admiral. Lieutenant Commander James Chen reported, his voice steady despite the catastrophe unfolding on their screens. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. They're not using any propulsion system we can recognize. Santos leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowed as she studied the movement patterns of the alien vessels. 25 years in the United Earth Defense Force had taught her to look for what others might miss. These ships, despite their apparent technological superiority, were moving in perfect, mathematically precise formations. Too perfect. Run a predictive analysis on their attack patterns, she ordered. Filter out the visual distortions and focus on pure trajectory data. The command center hummed with activity as Earth's most advanced AI systems processed the request. The alien vessels continued their methodical destruction of Titan's infrastructure, their weapons cutting through the colony's shields like they weren't even there. Analysis complete, Chen announced. Admiral, they're following the exact mathematical progressions. Each attack run is optimized for maximum efficiency. No deviation, no adaptation to our defensive responses. A ghost of a smile crossed Santos's weathered face. They're running on pure logic. Show me the next predicted point of attack based on their pattern. The holographic display highlighted a section of the colony's main reactor complex. Like clockwork, 3 alien vessels moved to strike exactly where the prediction indicated. Send this data to all remaining defense platforms, Santos commanded, and get me a secure line to the Artemis. The Artemis was humanity's first true space warship, built in secret using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien probe found on Mars decades ago. It wasn't pretty, a hodgepodge of human ingenuity and barely understood alien tech, but it was all they had. Captain Maya Rodriguez's face appeared on the command screen, her expression grim. We saw the attack, Admiral. Artemis is ready for launch. But against that level of technology, they're not invincible, Captain, Santos interrupted. They're predictable. These aliens, whoever they are, they think like machines. Perfect, logical, absolutely optimal in every move. And that's their weakness. Rodriguez's eyes widened with understanding. You want us to fight dirty. I want you to fight human, Santos corrected. Our entire history is built on asymmetric warfare, on finding ways to win when we're outgunned and outmatched. These aliens might have technology we can't comprehend, but they're fighting like computers, and computers can be hacked, corrupted, confused. The next hour was a blur of activity as Santos and her team formulated a desperate plan. The remaining defenders of Titan were ordered to execute seemingly random, inefficient maneuvers. Damaged platforms were left as bait, rigged with crude but effective nuclear devices. The Artemis, their one true warship, was positioned to look like a crippled civilian transport. The aliens, which Earth Command had designated as the Nexus, continued their perfect, predictable assault. They never deviated from their optimal patterns, never considered that inferior human technology could pose a real threat. That was their first mistake. When the Nexus ships moved to eliminate the apparently helpless Artemis, they maintained their perfect formation, right until the moment Captain Rodriguez triggered the nuclear mines hidden in the debris field. The explosions weren't powerful enough to destroy the alien vessels, but the electromagnetic pulses played havoc with their exotic energy fields. In that moment of disruption, the Artemis revealed its true nature. Rodriguez's crew had modified their weapons systems based on Santos's hunch. deliberately introducing random variations into their targeting algorithms. The shots weren't as accurate as they could have been, but they were unpredictable. For the first time since the attack began, Nexus ships began to fall. Multiple enemy vessels showing signs of confusion. Chen reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Their formations are breaking down. They're trying to adapt, but their responses are becoming erratic. Santos watched as the alien ships attempted to compensate for humanity's chaotic defense. Their perfect formations began to show signs of strain as they encountered something their advanced logic couldn't process: human unpredictability. "Send word to Earth Command," Santos ordered. "Tell them we found our edge. The Nexus might have technology beyond our understanding, but they don't have our creativity, our ability to embrace chaos and turn it into an advantage." As the battle for Titan Colony raged on, humanity had discovered its first key to survival. The Nexus's perfect logic was no match for human ingenuity and our willingness to defy conventional wisdom. It wasn't a decisive victory. Titan Colony was still largely in ruins, but it was a beginning. The first strike had revealed both humanity's greatest challenge and our greatest strength. The war that would follow would not be won by who had the better technology, but by who could adapt, improvise, and overcome. And if there was one thing humans had perfected over millennia of warfare, it was the art of winning against impossible odds. 2 months after the Battle of Titan, Admiral Santos stood in a secret facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, staring at what might be humanity's best chance for survival. The massive shape of the U.S. Leviathan, one of Earth's last nuclear submarines, floated in the underground dock like a sleeping giant. "Most people think we're crazy," Captain Sarah Chen said, walking alongside Santos. The younger officer had been transferred from Space Command specifically for this project. Her expertise in both naval operations and xenotechnology making her uniquely qualified. Converting submarines for space combat. The brass called it prehistoric thinking. Santos smiled, running her hand along the submarine's hull. "That's exactly why it's going to work. The Nexus expects us to try matching their technology level. They're waiting for us to build bigger ships, more advanced weapons. But they've never encountered anything like this." The project, codenamed Deep Black, was perhaps the most audacious plan in military history. Earth's remaining nuclear submarines were being retrofitted with reverse-engineered alien tech, but not in the way anyone would expect. Instead of trying to turn them into proper spaceships, they were being modified to maintain their core characteristics: stealth, endurance, and the ability to strike from absolute silence. "The latest simulations are promising," Chen reported, pulling up holographic data on her tablet. "The Nexus's sensors are based on detecting advanced energy signatures. They're looking for antiproton drives, quantum fields, all the hallmarks of an advanced civilization. But these," she gestured at the submarine, "these are practically invisible to them. The nuclear reactor signature is so primitive by their standards. It's like trying to spot a candle in a solar flare." The modifications were ingenious in their simplicity. The submarine's ballast systems were adapted to use dark matter instead of water, allowing them to dive and surface through the gravitational fields of space. Their torpedo tubes were now equipped with gravity bombs, weapons that used the Nexus's own advanced field technology against them. "How many are ready?" Santos asked, watching teams of engineers swarming over the Leviathan's hull. 3 so far: Leviathan, Kraken, and Nautilus. We've got 4 more in various stages of conversion." "But Admiral," Chen hesitated, "the success of this strategy depends entirely on human intuition. The AI assists we typically use for space combat would make us too predictable. These ships will have to be operated almost entirely manually." Santos nodded. That was precisely the point. The Nexus had shown they could outthink any computer, predict any program response, but they consistently failed when faced with human unpredictability. "Have you selected your crews?" Chen's expression brightened. "That's the beautiful part. We're pulling experienced submariners from every navy on Earth. These people have spent their careers thinking in 3 dimensions, operating on instinct, maintaining absolute silence. They're already trained for exactly the kind of warfare we need. The next week saw the first practical test of their theory. The Leviathan, under Commander Jack Martinez, surfaced from the dark side of Mars, using the planet's magnetic field to mask its approach. A Nexus patrol, consisting of 3 of their Mercury-like ships, passed within 10 kilometers without showing any sign of detection. Martinez's crew maintained perfect silence, their ship drifting on minimal power just as their submarine training had taught them. The Nexus vessels, for all their advanced technology, were looking for equals, other ships operating on their level of sophistication. They weren't prepared for an enemy that chose to operate beneath them. The test became a real engagement when a Nexus ship detected a human convoy leaving the Mars colony. As the alien vessels moved to intercept, Martins made his move. The Leviathan ascended from its hiding place in Mars' gravity well, launching a spread of gravity bombs that twisted space itself around the Nexus ships. The alien vessels, caught completely by surprise, found their perfect formations shattered as local spacetime distorted around them. Their attempts to compensate only made things worse, their advanced drive systems fighting against gravitational forces they hadn't even known to look for. Multiple direct hits, Chen reported from the Earth Command Center, watching the feed with Santos. The Nexus ships, they're trying to adapt, but they can't seem to process what's happening. Their responses are becoming increasingly erratic. The battle was over in minutes. 2 Nexus ships were destroyed. Their own energy fields collapsed inward by the gravity bombs. The third managed to escape, but its retreat was ragged, uncoordinated, nothing like their usual precise movements. "Send word to all commands," Santos ordered, a fierce pride in her voice. "Operation Deep Black is officially active. Tell them humanity is going hunting." As the message went out, more submarines turned starships were already deploying throughout the solar system. Humanity had found its niche in this war, not trying to match the Nexus' technological superiority, but exploiting it, turning their own assumptions against them. The Nexus had expected humanity to try to climb to their level. Instead, we had dug deeper, embracing strategies as old as warfare itself. In their perfection, they had forgotten one of the most fundamental rules of combat. Sometimes the deadliest predator is the one you never see coming. Dr. Aisha Patel stood before the Combined Earth Defense Council, her hand steady as she manipulated the holographic display. The room was filled with military leaders from every nation, all eyes fixed on the chaotic dance of light before them. "We've been analyzing the Nexus's battle formations for 3 months now," she explained, her voice carrying the excitement of discovery. "What we initially thought was perfect mathematical precision is actually something far more interesting and far more vulnerable." The display showed dozens of Nexus ships moving in their characteristic patterns, their formations flowing like liquid geometry. But now, overlaid on their movements, were complex mathematical equations that seemed to shift and evolve in real time. "They're not just following preset patterns," Patel continued. "They're executing what we call perfect emergence. Each ship is part of a vast, living algorithm. Every movement is calculated to create the most efficient possible response to any situation." Admiral Santos, sitting in the front row, leaned forward. "And you found a way to disrupt this." Patel's smile widened. "Better. We've found a way to weaponize chaos theory against it. Commander Chen, if you would." Chen stepped forward, his uniform now bearing the insignia of the newly formed Asymmetric Space Warfare Division. "We've developed what we call the Butterfly Protocol. Instead of trying to match their formations or develop counter patterns, we're introducing tiny, seemingly random variables into our own fleet movements." The hologram shifted, showing human ships moving in what looked like complete disorder. Small points of light indicated minor course corrections, minimal power fluctuations, and slight variations in shield harmonics. Each of these small changes, Chen explained, creates ripple effects in the Nexus prediction algorithms. Their entire combat strategy is based on calculating perfect responses to enemy movements. But when those movements become truly random, their calculations begin to break down. Santos finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. The simulation played out, showing how the accumulated chaos of human fleet movements caused Nexus formations to become increasingly erratic as their algorithms tried and failed to predict optimal response patterns. Exactly, Patel confirmed. But here's the truly revolutionary part. We're not just moving randomly. We've developed a system we call guided chaos. Our ships appear to be moving in complete disorder, but there's actually a human-guided pattern beneath the chaos. The next test of this strategy came sooner than anyone expected. A Nexus battle group was detected approaching the Jupiter defense line, likely aiming to eliminate the submarine ships that had been harassing their forces. Admiral Santos coordinated the defense from the newly commissioned UES Maelstrom, a ship specifically designed around the principles of guided chaos. Its power systems deliberately fluctuated, its shield harmonics constantly shifted, and even its hull was designed to create unpredictable sensor readings. All ships implement Butterfly Protocol, Santos ordered as the Nexus fleet approached. Remember your training, embrace the chaos, but maintain your underlying purpose. Move like water, not like machines. The battle that followed would later be studied in military academies across Earth as the perfect example of asymmetric warfare in space. Human ships moved in seemingly random patterns, each small deviation causing cascading disruptions in the Nexus's combat algorithms. The alien ships, trying to maintain their perfect formations, found themselves responding to phantom patterns that dissolved as soon as they emerged. Their attempts to predict human movements became increasingly desperate, their own formations starting to break down as their calculations spiraled into complexity too vast, even for their advanced systems to process. They're trying to find order in our chaos, Chen observed from his tactical station. But there is no order. At least, not one their logic can comprehend. The turning point came when a group of submarine ships emerged from Jupiter's radiation belts, their presence adding another layer of unpredictability to the battle. The Nexus fleet, already struggling to maintain coherence, found their perfect geometric formations collapsing entirely. Now, Santos commanded, all ships execute convergence pattern Delta. In an instant, the apparently random movements of the human fleet resolved into a coordinated attack. Ships that had seemed to be moving chaotically were suddenly precisely positioned to exploit gaps in the Nexus's broken formations. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the largest Nexus fleet yet encountered had been reduced to scattered remnants, their surviving ships retreating in disarray. As the after-action reports came in, Dr. Patel worked furiously at her station, analyzing the data. "Admiral," she called out, her voice tight with excitement. "The Nexus ships, their formations during the retreat, they're different. They're starting to show signs of adaptation, of learning from their defeat." Santos nodded grimly. "Good. Let them learn. Let them try to understand chaos, because that's humanity's true strength. We don't just create chaos, we thrive in it. And by the time they figure that out, we'll have changed the rules again." The victory at Jupiter marked a turning point in the war. Humanity had proven that superior technology wasn't everything. Sometimes, the ability to embrace disorder, to find strength in imperfection, was the greatest advantage of all. The discovery came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Emma Zhang, a junior AI specialist aboard the UES Maelstrom, noticed something peculiar in the neural interface readings during combat simulations. While monitoring the connection between human pilots and their ship's systems, she detected patterns that shouldn't have been possible. The human brain isn't just interfacing with the technology, she explained to Admiral Santos and her command staff. It's introducing quantum uncertainties into the system. Our emotions, our intuitions, they're creating microscopic variations that even our own AI can't predict. Santos studied the data scrolling across her display. After 6 months of war with the Nexus, humanity had learned to leverage chaos and unpredictability, but they were still searching for a decisive advantage. This might be it. You're saying our emotional states are affecting the ship's systems at a quantum level? Commander Chen asked, his scientific background evident in his careful analysis. That shouldn't be possible. Neither should the Nexus's technology, John countered. But look at these readings. When our pilots make intuitive decisions, when they act on gut feeling rather than tactical analysis, the neural interface creates quantum fluctuations that ripple through our entire combat system. Dr. Patel, who had been quietly analyzing the data, suddenly straightened. It's not just affecting our systems, she said, her voice tight with excitement. These fluctuations, they're interfering with the Nexus's predictive capabilities. Every time a human pilot acts on intuition rather than logic, it creates a kind of quantum static that their systems can't process. The implications were staggering. Humanity's greatest weakness, our emotional, often irrational nature, might be the key to defeating an enemy that operated on perfect logic. The implementation of what they call the Human Element Protocol began immediately. Instead of trying to minimize human emotional input in combat systems, they amplified it. Neural interfaces were modified to enhance rather than filter the quantum effects of human consciousness. Captain Maya Rodriguez, commanding the submarine ship Leviathan, was the first to test the new approach in actual combat. As her ship stalked a Nexus patrol near Saturn's rings, she allowed her hunter's instincts, honed by years of submarine warfare, to flow freely through the neural interface. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Leviathan systems, influenced by Rodriguez's focused predatory state, began operating in ways that defied conventional physics. Sensor readings became unpredictable. Weapon systems displayed quantum characteristics that shouldn't have been possible at their scale. "They can't track us," Rodriguez reported, her voice carrying the calm intensity of a seasoned hunter. It's like we're not quite existing in the same reality they are. Every time they think they have a fix on our position, their sensors slide right past us." The engagement that followed demonstrated the full potential of the Human Element Protocol. Rodriguez's crew, their emotions and intuitions amplified by the neural interface, operated their ship in ways that no computer would ever devise. They moved through Saturn's rings like ghosts, striking at the Nexus ships from impossible angles, vanishing before the aliens could compute a response. Multiple enemy ships destroyed, Chen reported from Tactical Command, watching the feed from Earth. The survivors, their formations are completely broken. They're trying to retreat, but their movements are erratic, almost panicked. They're experiencing fear, Dr. Patel realized, studying the Nexus ship's behavior patterns. For the first time, they're encountering something their logic can't explain or predict. They're being forced to confront the existence of true uncertainty. The success of the Leviathan's mission led to a rapid expansion of the Human Element Protocol across Earth's fleet. Ships were modified to enhance the quantum effects of human consciousness, creating vessels that operated on the boundary between technology and thought. But the real breakthrough came when they discovered that different emotional states created different quantum effects. A crew's focused determination could strengthen shields in ways that defied physics. A pilot's righteous anger could make weapons cut through Nexus defenses as if they weren't there. The protective instinct of a captain for their crew could somehow extend their ship's influence beyond normal spacetime. "We're not just fighting with technology anymore," Santos observed, watching as more reports of successful engagements came in. "We're fighting with the very essence of what makes us human. Our emotions, our intuitions, our ability to act on feeling rather than pure logic." The Nexus, for all their technological superiority, had no defense against this new form of warfare. Their perfect logical systems couldn't account for the quantum uncertainties generated by human consciousness. Every attempt to analyze and counter these effects only made them more vulnerable to them. As the war entered its next phase, humanity had discovered that our greatest strength lay not in trying to match the Nexus's cold perfection, but in embracing the messy, emotional, gloriously unpredictable nature of human consciousness. The ultimate weapon wasn't a piece of technology. It was the human heart and mind, working in harmony with the machines we built. The Nexus arrived at Earth with the largest fleet humanity had ever encountered. Their ships darkened the skies over every major city, their perfect formations casting geometric shadows across the planet's surface. It should have been terrifying. Instead, Admiral Santos felt a surge of anticipation. "They're desperate," she observed from the bridge of the UES Maelstrom. "Look at their formations. Too rigid, too perfect. They're overcompensating." 8 months of warfare had changed both sides. The Nexus, confronted with humanity's chaos and quantum-enhanced emotions, had retreated into even stricter patterns of logic and order. Their ships now moved with a precision that went beyond efficiency into obsession. "All ships, report status," Santos commanded. The responses came in from across the solar system. Submarine ships lurking in Earth's magnetic field, chaos pattern destroyers hidden in the moon's shadow, and squadrons of fighters whose pilots' emotions rippled through quantum space. "Dr. Patel," Santos called, "are you seeing what I'm seeing?" Aisha Patel studied the complex data streams flowing across her station. The Nexus fleet's energy signatures were unlike anything they'd seen before. "They've modified their entire battle network," she reported. "They're trying to create a perfect system, one so logically complete that our chaos can't affect it." "That's their mistake," Commander Chen added, a grim smile on his face. "They still think perfection is the answer." The battle began with a demonstration of that perfection. The Nexus fleet moved like a single organism, their ships flowing through space in patterns so complex they seemed to bend reality itself. Their first strike was precisely calculated to eliminate Earth's major defense installations in a single coordinated attack. But Earth was ready. As the Nexus weapons fired, human ships responded with controlled chaos. Submarines surfaced from gravitational eddies, their quantum-enhanced crews operating on pure instinct. Fighters dove into the gaps between Nexus formations, their pilots' emotions creating ripples of uncertainty that disrupted the aliens' perfect calculations. "Butterfly protocol active across all sectors," Chen reported. "Quantum interference is at maximum levels. Their prediction algorithms are starting to show strain." The Nexus responded by increasing their precision, tightening their formations into patterns of absolute mathematical perfection. It was exactly what humanity had been waiting for. "All ships," Santos broadcast across the fleet, "execute Operation Final Paradox." Across the battlefield, human crews engaged their neural interfaces to their fullest extent. But instead of fighting the Nexus's perfect order with chaos, they did something unexpected. They embraced it. Every ship in Earth's fleet suddenly began moving in patterns that perfectly mirrored the Nexus's formations. "They're trying to adapt," Paddle reported, watching the Nexus fleet's reactions. "Their systems are detecting the patterns, trying to calculate optimal responses." The trap was sprung. Just as the Nexus committed their fleet to counter humanity's apparent shift toward order, every human ship simultaneously engaged their quantum emotional systems at full power. The combined effect of thousands of human minds, all acting on pure intuition at exactly the same moment, created a cascade of quantum uncertainty that rippled through space itself. The Nexus's perfect formations, their absolutely logical battle network, tried to process this impossible combination of perfect order and total chaos. Their systems, pushed beyond their ability to compute, began to break down. Multiple Nexus ships showing critical systems failure, Chen called out. "Their battle network is collapsing. They can't maintain formation coherence." Santos watched as the mighty Nexus fleet began to disintegrate. Ships designed to operate in perfect harmony found themselves unable to process the paradox humanity had presented. Some vessels simply shut down, their logical systems unable to continue functioning. Others tried to retreat, but without their perfect coordination, they collided with each other in their panic. "They're sending a transmission," Patel announced suddenly. "Converting now." The message that appeared on their screens was unlike any previous Nexus communication. Instead of precise mathematical formulas, it was almost emotional. "We cannot compute. You are impossible. You embrace chaos yet maintain purpose. You are imperfect yet achieve perfection through imperfection. We submit." The surrender of the Nexus marked more than just the end of the war. It represented a fundamental shift in their understanding of existence. They had encountered a species that proved perfection wasn't the ultimate goal, that true strength could come from embracing imperfection, from finding harmony between chaos and order. As the remaining Nexus ships powered down their weapons, Admiral Santos stood on the bridge of the Maelstrom, looking out at Earth shining below. Humanity had faced an enemy that possessed technology beyond our comprehension, and we had defeated them not by trying to match their perfection, but by embracing everything that made us human: our emotions, our intuition, our beautiful imperfection. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of history. Tell them humanity has proven that the future belongs not to those who seek perfection, but to those who understand that imperfection, guided by wisdom and heart, is the greatest strength of all." The war was over, but its lesson would echo through the cosmos. In a universe that often seemed to demand perfection, humanity had shown that there was immeasurable power in being perfectly imperfect.